Sunday's match between Newcastle and Nottingham Forest was an insane and entertaining match for everyone who watched. Newcastle conceded in the first 10 minutes, exploded for 4 goals in 10 minutes, and then almost threw it all away in a very stress-inducing, very frustrating second half. In just 90 minutes, we saw examples of every high and every low that has defined Newcastle's season. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly what went right after coughing up the early goal and how the second half mirrored some of our worst performances this season. That's all coming up on the Newcastle United Digest. Hello, everybody, and welcome out to the Newcastle United Digest, the channel delivering you team content in bite-sized chunks. My name is Adam Snyder, and this is going to be an episode all about the highs and lows, the Jekyll and the Hyde, the yin and the yang, and every other schizophrenic cliche you can use to describe Sunday's game against Nottingham Forest. When I first saw the lineup, I thought the visitors were going to have an absolute field day with us. It was nice to see Lewis Miley get his first Premier League start in almost a year, especially with how well he's played at every opportunity he's been given this season. Then I saw the rest of the lineup. Tonali was on the bench with a reported injury, strain, muscle strain, whatever, he was on the bench. Joe Willock was starting in his place, and Nick Pope was starting in goal. I couldn't help but fear the worst after seeing that team sheet. And then 5 minutes in, we saw one of the themes of the season come in right away, and that is Eddie Howe's early conceding mags. Newcastle coughed up an early goal on a casually approached throw-in from Jacob Murphy and Tino Livramento. Callum Hudson-Odoi stripped Jacob Murphy's pocket and took full advantage of the situation. Assisting Hudson-Odoi was Nick Pope's atrocious positioning. He's nearly on the goal line, doesn't really come out to try to create any sort of angle, and he's given nearly 2/3 of the goal to shoot at. I've seen this quite a few times this season, where we give up an early goal and get the wind knocked out of us. The goal felt both like a sucker punch and a potential precursor to a long afternoon, especially after what we witnessed last weekend at the Etihad Stadium. It also brings back some vibes of the 4-2 loss at Brentford earlier this season as well. And then, as soon as the ball was kicked off after this goal, we started to see something a little bit different from the other games when we conceded early. We started to see Eddie Howe's resilient mags. We started seeing opportunities being created, free-flowing football, and lethal counterattacking. This was more like the Birmingham City FA Cup game or the 2-1 win against Spurs that we saw earlier this season as well. We started seeing dangerous opportunities get created with shots coming in from Lewis Miley and Anthony Gordon, a near miss and a dangerous Livramento cross, and then we get some luck and the ball started hitting the net. It started with a somewhat controversial call against Nottingham Forest. It appeared Anthony Gordon was fouled in a dangerous area just outside the 18-yard box, but when you look at it, it was kind of a dive. If you're a Forest fan, you're frustrated when these calls go against you, and it's especially frustrating when it results in a goal. It's happened to us before. It'll happen to us again. Sadly, that's just football. On this free kick, Bruno missed a free header that I think he was trying to head it into the bottom left-hand corner, far post from where he was, but it just went into the ground and went wide. There was a little bit of a tussle, and Joe Willock came out with it, and he went out to the edge of the penalty area, found Lewis Hall in support, and Hall found Lewis Miley in a bunch of space near the top of the penalty area. Before Forrest could even react, Miley takes a touch and then fires a low shot between 3 or 4 defenders through a defender's legs, and it goes into the bottom right-hand corner. It's one of those goals that culminates all of this young lad's hard work and resilience for a fight to get a chance to start, and he cements all of his previous performances with that goal. Not long after that, Forest are attacking and Pope makes a save. And immediately, without any hesitation, Dan Burn points to Anthony Gordon on the left wing, and Pope throws the ball out to him, and we're off to the races again. Hall and Gordon do a wonderful job of linking up, then find Isak in a position where we normally see Anthony Gordon lurking in. He holds up the ball wonderfully, and then back heels it to a streaking Lewis Hall. Brilliant, brilliant football. Hall takes a low shot, and then it deflects off a defender and over Matt Sells. At this point, the former Newcastle keeper is only a spectator at this point, and so is Joe Willock as he's diving and just watches it, wondering whether or not it's going to go in. And in comes Jacob Murphy just to get a little dink to ensure that the ball is going in the net. Had he not touched the ball, I think the ball was going out for a corner, but the fact that he did get the ball, but some people will say that, yeah, it's kind of a cheap goal for him to pick up, but without that touch, there's no goal. So full credit for him to be observant and react well. It's a good follow through by Murphy, but 100% Lewis Hall definitely did everything he could to create that goal. And then things got a little weird. Isak gets the ball back to Hall to cross into the box, and Ola Aina sticks his arm out to block it. Immediately, Newcastle are screaming for a handball call. There's a lengthy VAR check, and a penalty is awarded for the handball. And then Isak steps up to the penalty spot. That's not the weird part. Isak's penalty take is the weird part. He takes a slow one up to the ball and looks like he's decided on a Panenka, then side foots it top shelf. I think he adjusted after seeing Sells not dive either way, and Sells is still surprised by the shot. He gets a hand to it, but he's off balance and he really can't get any power behind it. It's too late, and the game is now 3-1. On the ensuing kickoff, Pope fields a cross that nobody from Nottingham Forest connected with. He takes a few steps to the left side of the penalty area and finds Lewis Hall making a run out of the penalty area, and we're off to the races again. Hall finds Willock streaking down the left touchline, and he uses his pace to beat his man. He is off to the races. There's no catching Joe Willock at this point. Isak is hovering around the center backs, and Little Joe feeds Isak for a perfect pass to spring him free. Alexander takes one touch, and it finds its way into the net with a little help from a Forest defender. In the span of 10 minutes, we went from being 1-0 down to 4-1 up. Not long after that, we do well to keep our foot on the gas and create another very dangerous opportunity. Along with some one-touch and highlight reel passes, the ball gets moved around to Jacob Murphy, who redirects a shot right at Sells. The rebound pops out to Gordon, and he fires it into the arm of a defender sitting right in front of Sells. There's an immediate appeal for handball, but it was correctly not given. There was no chance to react from that range, and VAR quickly checked and cleared the appeal. And then we started to see a little bit of complacency kick in, and it started to get dangerously complacent as the second half wore on. It was very apparent that we started coasting into the second half, especially in injury time. Once the second half started, it quickly became a combination of the worst play we've seen this season and every part of the resilient, high-flying Mags we saw in the first half was a distant memory. We started playing back a lot more, and we invited a lot more pressure. And with this increased pressure come the increased number of fouls and the increased number of corner kicks. Even clearances for throw-ins were dangerous because Alanga for Nottingham Forest is their long throw specialist. He can get a ball into the center of the penalty area, and it is treated like a free kick or corner, and you have to defend it that way. And we didn't do a very good job of defending any of these. In fact, it looked like we treated any set piece defending as nap time each time we conceded one this half. Both of Forest goals were scored off of set pieces, and there were several others that should have been goals. Milenkovic scored a wonderfully improvised goal after Chris Wood fed the ball after receiving it on the far post unchallenged. I rewatched this goal a couple of times. I'm wondering who left him wide open on the far post to have that much free reign to take this touch. And I think it was Dan Byrne responsible for it, and he missed his mark on Wood. We lived a charmed life for most of this half where Forest could not capitalize on the many chances they had around our goal. It was very reminiscent of our win against Wolves at the tail end of our winning streak. Had they been able to finish, Wolves would have easily ended that streak a game earlier. Our luck ran out when Yates cleaned up a rebound on yet another poorly defended set piece just as injury time started. I believe it was his first or second touch after being subbed on, and if you're coming on as a sub, especially that late in the game, that's a great way to make an impact. The last kick of the game gave us our final piece of frustration, with Callum Wilson getting the ball all by his lonesome self from the center stripe all the way into the goal. He trotted like nobody was around him and nobody was going to catch him, and then he started hearing footsteps and panicked. As soon as he saw Wilson through, Anthony Gordon got on his bike and was off to the races to be Callum Wilson's support man. But Wilson didn't see him or didn't want to give up an opportunity to score, or I don't know what Wilson was thinking. I think he half saw Gordon streaking. He half thought maybe I should take this to the corner, and then at the very last second, he thought, I'm going to go for goal. And he did this really weak, unconvincing scissors step over right at the top of the penalty area. And the Forest defender had nothing of it and was able to get a block on it. Thankfully, that was the last kick of the game. But if that wasn't, it could have been a lot worse had Forrest gotten the ball and hoofed it back into the Newcastle third. It could have been pandemonium with a very good chance that Forrest could have leveled that at the death. It was very, very stressful to watch. I surprised myself that I wasn't pacing in my living room while watching this second half, especially the last 10 minutes. But I stayed put, I stayed still, and we did come out with all 3 points, even though it felt like we, blew a 4-1 lead and drew or lost or something like that. 3 points are 3 points, but that's not the way to do it. And I'm hoping you're enjoying this as much as I am. When I look back on games that were stressful, I can laugh at it and I can look at it with a clearer head. And I hope that you're doing that too. And if you're enjoying this analysis and you're enjoying looking at this game with a clear mind and a clear conscience and not in the middle of watching it, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we're going to be doing a lot more analysis for the rest of this season. And when you want to see more of this, come on back. The subscribe button will make it a lot easier for you to find me. That's all I got to say about that. And now let's move on to our ratings by position. And this was probably one of the more difficult games to rate because I had to take both the first and second half into account. That's what made it hard because if it was just the first half, these are all 8s, 9s, and 10s, but if it was just the second half, it's all 3s and 4s. So I had to even things out a little bit. And at goalkeeper, we're going to start with Nick Pope. He's going to get a 7 out of 10. Sometimes Nick Pope has a tendency to make things more difficult than they need to be, and he did this quite a bit today. There were times when he was off his line for the wrong reasons, and he wrongly stayed near the goal line at sometimes for the wrong reasons. His distribution was scary at times, and he nearly conceded a goal in the first half injury time. And there was another opportunity in the first half where he laid a hospital pass to Dan Byrne when he had 2 guys on him and Byrne got stripped. And it looks bad on Byrne, and really that's on Pope for giving him the ball in the first place. But in other situations, his quick distribution was brilliant. His quick thinking started the breaks that led to Murphy's goal and Isak's second. So that's where things get tough. And that's why he's getting a 7 out of 10. Our defense is going to get a 6 out of 10 for this game. A lot of the scores because of the second half, but there were some precursors to what was coming in the second half, sometimes in the first. Livramento did not look particularly solid throughout the game on the defensive side of the ball, and Lewis Hall, he got beat a little bit on the end line on a regular basis, but both were brilliant going forward, lashing in brilliant crosses, with Hall being a crucial portion of 3 of the 4 goals. No, that's not right. Hall contributed to all 4 goals in some way, shape, or form. So kudos to him. Now, moving on to midfield, they're also going to get a 6 out of 10 for this game. It took a lot of heart to dust off conceding the first goal. This team showed a lot of heart and resilience to score 4 unanswered goals. And a lot of that came from midfield. The makeshift trio of Willock, Miley, and Bruno did well to stay within their roles and work well together. It was odd to say this, but Bruno was oddly anonymous throughout this game, and I think that was mostly a good thing. He did a solid job in the first half at his number 6 role until Tonali came on, and he allowed Miley and Willock to bomb forward with confidence. When the second half came along, we saw what happens when they aren't in full dominance mode. Like last week against Man City, Forrest ran them over, and that led to conceding a lot of chances and set-piece opportunities. It took bringing on a not 100% Tonali to right the ship and help keep all 3 points in Newcastle. Now, moving on to the forwards, there's not much else to say about them, but they're getting an 8 out of 10 for this week. In the run of play, the forwards did their job to generate dangerous scoring opportunities. It helped they scored 2 with Isak and Murphy getting goals from open play, and Isak putting in a 3rd for the forwards from the penalty spot. The forwards lose some points for a couple of situations. Obviously, Murphy gets stripped by Hudson-Odoi for the 6-minute goal, and Callum Wilson missing that breakaway is the last kick of the game. Yes, the final whistle blew right after that, but it could have been a lot worse had that not been the last kick of the game. How bad would that have looked if Forrest hoof it down the other end and score, making it 4-4 at the death? Speaking of things that were a horror show, set pieces. They get a 5 out of 10 for this game. On the offensive side of things, we were dangerous in the first half. We were creating a lot of opportunities. In fact, Lewis Miley's goal came off of a set piece opportunity. There were shots and headers that were nearly wide, and Sherry even put a header off the crossbar. On the defensive side, we were awful. Like, really, really bad. Like, the worst I've seen us defend set pieces all season bad. Forced 2 goals came off of dead balls in the second half, and there were plenty of other opportunities on corners and free kicks that should have been goals, but somehow weren't. I'm still shocked that they didn't score more goals off of these set piece opportunities. And had they been able to finish, this would have ended up 5-4 or 6-4 in favor of Nottingham Forest. One of the things that did help was Eddie Howe's choice of substitutions. I think the most important one of these was subbing off Willock for Tonali. When things got chaotic, Sandro Tonali brought some semblance of calmness, and he made some tackles and clearances in situations that I think Bruno or Willock would have not been able to handle it and might have panicked a little bit. And his calmness was what helped right the ship and make sure that we get all 3 points. The other two subs, however, were not as effective. Harvey Barnes coming on for Jacob Murphy just didn't work, and we've already talked about Callum Wilson's big miss at the end of the game. And those two just did not look like they were able to help us right the ship or turn things around to try to get another goal and ensure that we bring 3 points. In fact, they're more of a liability. When you tally everything up and you average it out, it comes out to a 6.5 out of 10. The lesson for this game: play 90 minutes of football. Don't let your foot off the gas ever, no matter how big your lead is. Goal differential is important, especially when we're going to be fighting for European positions. It's okay to keep scoring and humiliate your opponent. That's doubly true when you have to do it to a team that are just ahead of you in the table. And if we get down to the end of the season and we lose out in goal differential by 2 or 3 goals, this will be one of the games that we point to. And that will do it for this episode of the Newcastle United Digest. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope that I didn't bring back too many bad flashbacks of this game. I enjoyed going back and analyzing it and thinking about it and looking for ways that hopefully these are things that they're implementing to improve and keep getting better as we march toward Wembley in a few weeks. I'm still looking forward to that, but we still have to look one game at a time. We have our Carabao Cup opponents on Wednesday in the league, Liverpool away at Anfield. It's going to be a tough match, but with them kind of sealing the title, there's a good chance we might be able to squeak out some points just because they might be taking their foot off the gas as well. So hopefully it's an entertaining match. Hopefully it ends in our favor, and I hope you have enjoyed this one and enjoy that game on Wednesday. Later on this week, I will come back with a reaction for that game, and it'll be a joy to do for all of you. So if you're not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell so you get notified whenever I release a new video. So with that, that is all. I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.